When does life begin? I'm wondering. It's a matter that must be spoken of, must be addressed. So today's topic is about when does life begin, and I want to look at the fallacy in contemporary society, measurement of this phenomenon of life. Let us now look at it. When does life begin from a biblical perspective? According to the Bible, and remember we're looking at it from a biblical perspective. So according to the Bible, life begins at conception or at fertilization of an embryo. And we can read two scriptures that looks at that. That is Jeremiah 1 verse 5 and Luke 1 verse 41 that actually say that life begins at conception. So from a scientific perspective, life begins at conception or fertilization. Now, what science has been using to examine this matter of life in the womb is ultrasound. And that the ultrasound thing began long before it actually started using on um, embryos or on women. Now, that was done in the 1970s as the first time ultrasound was used to assess. Remember now, ultrasound was used to assess or to determine life in the womb. All right. Now, ultrasound can be used to assess or to determine life in the womb of a female 8 days to 12 days post conception or post fertilization. So, what we are saying now is science has established that life begins at fertilization or conception, which is the same thing for the Bible, which means that the Bible and science concur as to the beginning of life. Now, so I want to give you now some researches or some things that you can actually go and read on the same matter relating to life. And these now are looking at life from beginning from the perspective of science or from a scholastic perspective. So one thing that we can actually read is Sarah Verney, and that is Varney 2022. We can also go and read something from Princeton University. Life begins at fertilization. We can also go and read um, Koch, and that is Kock 1993. When does human life begins? And I'm looking from a legal perspective. And we can also go and read the facts and doubts about the beginning of human life and personality. So those are some readings that we can actually go and use to look at the thing relating to life. So I want to actually speak to you now. Having established that life begins at fertilization, either from the cosmology of science or religious dogma. Now, if life begins at fertilization, I want to ask you a simple question, and I'm going to pause for you to reflect on that question. The question is, if life begins at fertilization or conception, how does one birth certificate states that you were born December 5, 19 whenever or 2000 whenever when you have exited your mother's womb? Knowing fully well that you were alive from conception. Have you thought about it? So I've given you a few seconds and you have thought about it. So let me take, the normal time for which females normally give birth, normally, is between 7 and 9 months. All right. So if a female has a infant in her womb for 9 months, 8 months, or 7 months, those 9 months, 8 months, or 7 months, the fetus would have been alive. So the fetus is alive during that period. How it is when the fetus exit the mother's womb, you become 1 day old. what happens to the 8 months or the 9 months or the 7 months or the 6 months or the 5 months that you are alive in your mother's womb? Explain that to me. Some things are missed in the matter. So what we are saying is contemporary society recalculates date of birth from the time you exit your mother's womb. That is assuming fundamentally that during the time in your mother's womb, you were 0 years old. Does that make sense to you? Because at 0 years old, that would indicate to you that no life would have started. And you started from birth in your mother's womb. Within the context that you begin life from within your mother's womb, from the time of conception with the embryo, into a fetus, into a human. I wouldn't say a human, sorry for that. Into a baby that exits the womb of your mother. Where is all that time gone? Where are those months? How did those months evaporate or disappear or decline to be? That makes no sense to me. Is it only to suit the certification process? Wow. So you are saying to me that when an infant is born, the infant begins at 1 day old. So the process of birth through the birth canal or through cesarean section, all of that time period is 0. So during the time you're in your mother's womb, that the doctors, gynecologists would have been checking on the infant or the fetus being alive. And if the fetus is alive, those are time periods that should have been included on the birth register. That is not the case in contemporary society. The question is, where are those months gone? As a result of that, if an individual were to be born on January 1 of 2023, he or she would be a day old on that day within contemporary society. The question is, what happens to the 8 months? It means when the individual would have celebrated his or her first birthday, which is 12 months after, the individual would not have been 12 months. The individual would have been 12 months plus the 9 months or plus 7 months, indicating that the individual would be almost 2 years old. By that same yardstick, that same argument, it means all of us today would be at least 9 months or 7 months or 8 months older than our birth paper displays or shows. That's not complex to understand. I presume that is straightforward. So there's clearly some fallacy in how numbers is placed on birth. Because if it is that we are arguing that birth occurs from the womb, then why are you 1 day old on exiting the womb? When you would have been in the womb alive for 7 months or 8 months or 9 months. The other side to that is, if life does not occur during the time of the womb, then abortion would be acceptable because there have been no life. But that argument cannot be true because that has actually been that has been brought legally with Roe versus Wade in 1973. That says that life begins in the womb from conception or fertilization of the egg. Now, within that context, you're asking, or I'm forwarding, that life must start from there. And if life begins from there, that becomes the day 1 or the day 0. The conception time becomes the day 0. And the conception time becomes the day 0. When you exit your mother's womb, you will start counting continuously from the day of the conception. Now, even if it is that the ultrasound cannot establish the exact day of conception, but can estimate that you were conceived on March 4, 2000. Then it means that when you are born, you would continue from the ultrasound time to the day that you are exiting your mother's womb and continue, and not be counted as 1 day old. Because 1 day old is assuming that life did not exist during the time in the womb. That's much thought. And I've given you something to think about. That something is clearly mysterious about how it is that birth is recorded and numbered in our world today. I'm asking to share, like, subscribe to this channel as I continue to give you trusted truth. Thank you.